Hey guys, Fifi Mangaka here. Today, I wanted to talk about what I feel about the current state of the online indie manga community. This video doesn't have a script, it's just me kind of riffing off the top of my head. The footage is me thumbnailing, drafting, whatever you want to call it, for chapter 2 of my manga OLDE Treehouse. And let's get right in. So what sparked this idea of my thoughts and my feelings about the current state of the community is last week I published my title OLDE Treehouse. I published it on Webtoon, Manga Plus Creator, and Global Comix, and I did a video on my thoughts about my experience publishing on all of those platforms. And I just kind of let it cook. I kept making YouTube videos and, just preparing for the next part of my story. One thing that I didn't expect, however, was for OLDE Treehouse to hit top 4 in fantasy stories on Global Comix. And it was really exciting. I was so happy to see that so many people had gone to check out something that I put so much time and energy into. So it was really motivating, and I felt so good about it, that, people were resonating with my story, because that is the predominant reason why I'm doing this. But it also made me think about something else. It made me think about what I consider myself as a creative. It made me think about what impact I want OLDE Treehouse to have and how exactly I'm going to go about achieving that impact that I want this comic to have. When I got to publishing OLDE Treehouse and seeing kind of like the returns of the work that I had put into it kind of manifesting, it changed my thoughts on where I want to be associated online and how exactly I'm going to get to the goal that I have, which is obviously for lots of people to enjoy and read OLDE Treehouse. And I also came to the conclusion that the indie manga community is not exactly where I'm going to do this. The indie manga community is not where I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. And I guess let me kind of break that down a little further. So for those of you in the indie manga community, you know that Manga Plus Creators is kind of like the only platform that's solely catering to manga and manga creators. It's the only one that's exclusively, well, at least in namesake, for manga. And there's monthly contests, just like how it's done in Japan. There's a ranking system. There's like little stickers that the review team gives out to certain works, etc. And so when you first join the indie manga community, you very quickly learn about this platform, and you very quickly learn about the influence of it. And you learn about how, it's a goal, to hit top 10 so you could have some editors from Manga Plus Creators review your work. So a lot of creators rightfully spend a lot of effort marketing their work for Manga Plus Creators, myself included, so that you can get readership and you can possibly, have your work put in front of this editorial team and maybe even win an award. It seems like a valiant goal. And, I didn't necessarily want to win an award or get stickers, but I felt like because OLDE Treehouse is a manga, I probably should put it on this platform. And I kind of focused a little bit too much on the idea of OLDE Treehouse is a manga, so therefore I must associate with the manga community. I must make videos about manga stuff. I must, and I think this mentality made me completely lose sight of the whole goal that I originally had going into this, which is to tell a great fantasy story in the form of a manga. And once I started kind of getting my head all wrapped into the quote unquote indie manga community, I really started losing sight of the most important thing, which is my potential readers, my audience, the people who I want my story to touch and be inspired by. Things like Manga Plus Creators were becoming a distraction for me specifically. Now, that's not to say that there's not merits in Manga Plus Creators or that you shouldn't put your work there. Everybody's goals in this is very different. Mine specifically, though, I found had very little to do with being a part of the indie manga community as like a personality, I guess you could say. More than anything, I want to tell a great fantasy story that excites people, that makes people happy, that makes them mad, that motivates them, that reminds them of things that they went through. And that fact has nothing to do with what I choose to call myself on the internet or what community I choose to align myself with on the internet. As I started thinking about, okay, what does this mean for Ye Olde Treehouse? What does this mean for your channel, Fifi? Are you saying you're just going to blow everything up and just, start fresh? What are you going to do? It recentered me on the most important thing, and that is get as many people aware of this story as possible. One of the biggest hurdles for indie comic creators is awareness. A lot of times folks will upload their work to various platforms and it won't get the views that it truly could get, it won't get the eyes that it deserves, due to all the hard work that you put into it and the story you want to tell. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that is the fact that a lot of times we get very caught up in the things that are not getting us closer to our audience. So we spend a lot of time perfecting our artwork and our storytelling, but we don't spend any time considering, well, who is this even for? Who is my reader? Who do I want to care about Ye Olde Treehouse? Which characters do I want to connect with people and on what level? What type of person do I want to say, oh my God, I love Rue, she reminds me of myself. Those sorts of questions that will help you move in a way that gets more eyes to your work. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not sitting here for 10 plus hours a day working on this comic for no one to see it. And I'm pretty sure most of you who are making, whether it's a manga, a webtoon, whatever, I'm pretty sure most of you are not sitting at your desks for hours every day so that no one can see your work. So when I started having this, I guess, heart to heart with myself about my goals, I started to realize that calling myself a mangaka and, focusing on being, I guess, accepted by the indie manga community and highlighted by the indie manga community and having friends in this community was starting to really outshine the primary goal, which is that I want people to read my story. I want people to be touched by my story. And because it was outshining it, it was diluting my outreach efforts. Rather than making some of the videos that I wanted to make, which were like my power system video explaining the auger system in my story, with narration and stuff, I find myself feeling pressured to make manga related content or put manga characters in my thumbnails, things that I think just, are a distraction to the real goal, which is to get my story out there. Now, the way that I see my trajectory and the way that I see, the wonderful comments that I've gotten and the wonderful support that I've gotten on Ye Olde Treehouse so far, I feel like I'm making a conscious effort as a creator to sort of move away from this identity, if you will, as an indie manga creator. Move away from this narrow thought that I had to be taken seriously in this community in order for anyone to care about Ye Olde Treehouse. Because the fact of the matter is, honestly, I don't have very many friends in this community to begin with, but I do have a lot of readers so far, and that's just a funny and ironic thing. And a lot of people who are reading Ye Olde Treehouse, they don't even read manga, so something about the story is connecting with folks, and that is the goal. That is what I originally set out to do, using this exceptional storytelling and artistic format, manga, to tell my story. So long story short, I will be moving away from sort of this, manga influencer, indie manga influencer type of content. And I'll be moving more into documenting my journey as a manga creator as a whole, without pressuring myself to sort of be accepted in this community, or I guess focusing so much on names and titles and awards and all of this, instead of focusing on the amazing story that I want to tell to all these amazing people out there who haven't heard about it yet, who I need to do outreach to. And so what are some of the things that I'm going to do in order to reach the people that I need to reach? Well, the first thing is I need to tell the story in another format than just manga. One of the things I've been thinking about recently a lot is the fact that manga is a relatively new phenomenon for the West. I grew up on anime primarily, Sailor Moon, Gundam Wing, Fist of the North Star, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Cardcaptor Sakura, like I could go on and on and on. Dragon Ball, of course. And I was watching anime, as most of us, if you're from the United States, you probably grew up watching anime too. Manga in book form, reading manga, monochromatic, sequential comic is really new for Western audiences. So, I had this kind of thought with myself about the fact that, this is a tricky format for a lot of folks in the West, especially if you're doing a right to left format. It's very tricky. It's new for Westerners. So that's one hurdle I'm expecting an audience to overcome, is to overcome the hurdle of reading my story in a format that you're not at all used to. And then the second hurdle I'm asking them to overcome is it's monochromatic. So just, bear with me. There's no color here. And while we folks who are, in the business of making manga understand this is part of the art, this is part of the, beauty of this format, a lot of Western audiences are not used to that at all. They're not used to black and white. And for some of them, it can be a bit jarring. So I'm also expecting my audiences to move past that and give me a chance, right? And that's a lot to expect the audience. At least I feel like it's a lot to expect from them. So I need to make up for that somehow. I need to sell them on the story. And I think this is really important. If I'm expecting my future readers or my future audience to give my manga a chance when they probably don't even read Jujutsu Kaisen's manga. They probably watch the anime and then go back and check out, their favorite scene in the manga. If I'm expecting them to read my indie manga, that's just a lot to ask, And so I need to get the story out there. And that is the emotional connection. I need to figure out how to connect emotionally with my story, with my future readers. If I can connect emotionally with them, then there's a chance that they might be willing to take a chance on me in this format that they may not typically read. Because at the end of the day, Ye Olde Treehouse can be a manga, it could be a novel, it can be a Western comic, it could be a webtoon. I don't care. I am passionate about this story, and I will do whatever artistically is required of me to tell this story, And so I think with all of those things kind of considered, that's what informed my feeling, my decision to prioritize, rather than prioritize, being in the indie manga community and being seen as an indie mangaka and having friends with all the indie mangakas and stuff. Prioritize telling my story, making the content that is purely about my story, telling, the things that I think are unique about my world or my characters, and the creative ways and ideas that I have to tell those things and get that out there. That is my priority going forward. My priority is not winning an award on Manga Plus. It's not getting a bunch of views on Manga Plus. My priority is reaching those people that I'm crafting this story for, reaching those people that I feel would have a good time reading my work. And recently on Ye Olde Treehouse's post on Global Comix on the platform, I got a really nice comment from the CEO, and he had a good time reading Ye Olde Treehouse. He enjoyed it, and that really was a huge boost to my, my heart. It made me feel really good about the work that I'm doing on my story. And it was kind of a little bit of validation for me about all of this effort, all of these painstaking moments and days working on this dang comic and telling this story. It was oh, cool. Wow, someone liked it. Someone kind of important liked it. That makes me feel good, and all of the other folks who have been dropping the sweetest comments, those really important folks also liked it. And all of these things are telling me ultimately that I am distracted by titles, and names and, niches and blah, 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 blah. Like everything that's not talking about Ye Olde Treehouse, telling people about this story. And maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you feel pressured to write stories in a specific way or create characters in a specific way or do whatever it is indie manga people do, because we're different from Webtoon folks, right? Like we make different things and our art is, different and we have different focus and all this other stuff that I feel at this stage in my journey, I feel incredibly disconnected from all of that. I feel incredibly disconnected from all of that. If I want to conform, if I want to, kind of be told what to do, I'm going to go back to software engineering because I make a heck of a lot more money being told what to do as an engineer than making this comic, But so these are all the things that I've just kind of been noodling on as I do like a reflection on chapter 1. I'm just so happy and I guess proud of where this thing is going. And I want to make sure I do right by the people that this story is for. And I can't do that if I'm distracted by all of these other things, So I guess what does that mean going forward for Fifi mangaka and all of this other stuff? Well, it's not going to change anything. Like I'm still, going to be talking about writing and all this other stuff. I think the only difference is that I want to reach a wider audience. I want to tap into the folks who don't necessarily read manga, because I will tell you what, you can be convinced to read manga if something in the story connects with you. And I have a little bit of an anecdote for this. So you may have noticed I really love Slam Dunk. It's my favorite manga. That manga changed my life, hands down. Like it absolutely changed my life when I was at a very, very, very difficult state in my life. And I, for the longest time, was recommended Slam Dunk. Read Slam Dunk, read Slam Dunk. And I was like, no, I don't read sports manga. Are you kidding me? I hate basketball. You're expecting me to read a basketball manga? What the heck? And I just delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. And when I finally broke down, the very first thing I did was watch the anime. I didn't read the manga. That's interesting. After I found, wow, this is really funny. This is cool. I like these characters. Then I went in and I read the manga in just like 2-3 days. Finished everything, had the absolute best experience of my life, and I started playing basketball. And just the weight of how this story changed my life, even though I was someone that absolutely hated basketball and could never be bothered to watch a sports anime or read a sports manga. And the reason that I bring that up is to say, if there is something emotionally that connects to the audience with the story, or with the characters, or with the setting, typical barriers, I don't think they will apply. I don't like sports very much at all. I did not like basketball. But when I gave Slam Dunk a chance, it made me absolutely love the sport, appreciate and understand the art of the sport. And I think that I want to harness this realization in how I promote my work and how I, create my work. And I personally feel like I cannot do that if I restrict myself to, identifying solely as or only interacting in manga communities. I want to be able to reach people who don't necessarily read manga. I want to reach those people. And I think the best way to do that and the way that the plan that I have in order to do that is to lead with my story. Don't lead with, oh, this is the first indie manga that has blah, or, my manga is like blah, 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 blah. Lead with the story, the feeling, the characters, the emotion, So let me tell you about my plan. If you made it this far in this video, then you're going to hear my plan and you're going to tell me if you think it's bad and I'm crazy. Here's my plan for how I'm going to accomplish this. If I'm leading with the story and I'm marketing predominantly to a Western audience, if I'm using my personal experience, which a lot of folks have a similar experience, we grew up on anime and animation. We grew up with moving pictures and color and voices, right? In Asia, I'm in Asia right now. In Asia, manga is what most young kids grow up on. But in the Western world, most young kids grow up on animation. So my idea is to kind of use that as a waypoint, as a guiding point. I want to use this knowledge to tell Ye Olde Treehouse through a format that most Westerners are a bit more used to. Oh, Fifi, does that mean you're making anime? Not quite. Not quite. So my plan is to continue developing Ye Olde Treehouse. And this video, I'm working on my very janky thumbnails for chapter 2. But in order to make people aware, to build awareness for my series, I'm going to be doing animatics. So if you don't know what an animatic is, it's basically a storyboard, a moving storyboard of a scene. So not exactly the stage that I'm at in this video right here. This is like I said, the janky thumbnail step. But one step after this, once I get to the more clean and discernible storyboards, basically an animatic is you take those storyboards and you go frame by frame. You throw some music on top, maybe some sound effects, maybe some voices, and you kind of tell the story that way. It's basically an animation with significantly less frames. So why am I doing this? Well, my theory is that this will be a more palpable way for an audience that's more used to seeing things first through movement, through color, through sound. It's a more palpable way for these people to be exposed to my story as opposed to saying, hey, go read my manga, I think I will have better luck creating an animatic that demonstrates something from my manga, and then getting that reader to connect with it on some emotional level that compels them to then go and read the manga. That is my grand theory, and we're going to see if it works. I will report back if it works. But long story short, friends, if you've made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you. But long story short, I don't want to be distracted anymore by things that don't move me closer to my goal. And my priority right now is my readers and the community and people I want to reach with my story. And so from this, I guess this video is kind of holding me accountable. From this point forward, every action that I take is going to get me closer to those people. It's going to get me closer to that audience. And it's going to allow me to serve their needs with my story as opposed to, trying to be important or paid attention to in the indie manga scene. So that's probably all I've got to say for this video. I'm really curious for folks who are making manga out there and who've kind of poked around in the indie manga scene. Do you feel similarly? Is it aligned with where you want to take your story, or do you feel like maybe there's different goals that you have? I'm really curious to know how others are feeling about it and, just how the community may align or not align with your own goals and whether or not you think things like Manga Plus creators could be, distracting to you personally. I'm just curious. I would just like to know how others are feeling out there. Ultimately, everyone's goals are really different, and there's no one size fits all to how to achieve the various things that we all want to achieve. But I think I've just come to the realization of what the size is that I need. So that's basically what I wanted to get across in this video. With that being said, going forward, I am going to hit you with writing and storytelling and all those tips and all those things and documenting my journey to the webcomic community as a whole, to everybody who seeks to tell a story through comics and manga. And I think that's a good and I hope honorable way forward here. And thank you so much for listening to me share my thoughts, and it's very cathartic. I appreciate you more than you know, and I will see you next time. Bye.